Hello, hello, and welcome to the Journal Star Sportswriters podcast. I'm your host, Adam Duvall, joined always by small school football beat writer Stan Morris, sports editor Wes Huett.
Hello.
We will recap Week 8, look ahead to Week 9, and talk a little bit about the playoff picture. But first, Stan, let's start with the big game.
Yeah.
Washington 30. Metamora
game,
15.
Went to the large school side this week, yeah. Really good game. I mean, it was one of those games where, Washington, looked like they got control of it early in that second quarter, scored 23 points in that second quarter, had some field position, took advantage of that, got a safety to kind of get things rolling in the second quarter, and then a big return from Sam Walter to get them down to a short touchdown, another a punt that snapped that went high for Metamora that gave him another short field and a touchdown there to kind of, get, and then a really long catch and run from Ludolf and get them up 23-0 at halftime, and then it's a game. And Metamora had a chance to score right before half, which would have been a huge one momentum-wise. But man, they just turned things around though in the third quarter, and Metamora really came on strong. They had some 77-yard drive, an 83-yard drive. Thomas Hall was able to kind of. Washington was putting all kinds of pressure on him all night, and he was able to kind of throw off to get some screens and find some open guys, and did a nice job of moving the change and getting things going down there. And he threw a couple touchdown passes. They even had a chance there in the fourth quarter, and about 7 or 8 minutes left to go in the game. We're driving to the 27-yard line of Washington. Had a throw close to the end zone that just went out of receiver's hands, and that could have had a chance to get them to the point of tying the game up there. But
what were they doing defensively to slow down Washington in the second half? I mean, were they sort of doing it the whole game, but then the short fields kind of hurt them in the first half, or what was it?
Yeah, I mean, Metamora's defense was really good all night.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about they only gave up 189 yards the whole game, and 100 of those came in 2 plays. So that they were just doing that kind of flying around and not really letting them get the big plays in the second half. They weren't able to get the run game going really at all, and so
so it does sound like it kind of came down to those mistakes, and then they missed that touchdown catch to potentially get them in, and then they turn around and it goes back to the other way.
Right. They had another chance, to in their field, but weren't able to really get anything going. Had to punt away, and then right away. Then Caleb Fisher goes for the 43-yard, kind of a clinching score there. But both teams looked really good.
Yeah.
Old takes exposed on my part. I think I called Metamora's defense suspect.
You did
a few times.
Yeah, you've been trying to get me to say that for like 5 weeks.
And yet they, like you said, they gave up 189 yards to Washington. And I said there's no way that their defense will keep this game in the 30s or whatever, and sure enough.
Momentum does something, especially when you're in your home like that. I mean, they kind of fed off each other. Offense and defense kind of fed off each other in that second half with Metamora, and got things rolling. They might actually
benefit from this. I mean, you play a great team like Washington. You show that you're in it. Mm-hmm. You weren't It isn't a situation where they. Like, we don't belong on this field. It's now, okay, we can play with this team. Now we're going to go into a 5A field that doesn't have Washington in it.
Right.
And maybe even like the 3rd or 4th seed in that thing. And that's,
Do I dare say that Metamora, after that first quarter, they were still kind of, eyes big. We're playing on a big stage here. I mean, a lot of those kids don't have, playoff experience. And Washington kind of took advantage of that in the second quarter?
I don't know if this is just a matter of that Washington defense just being so good that, and it took, as any team, it kind of takes a little while to kind of what's going to work, and Thomas Hall was able to find those things that worked in the third quarter to get them moving the ball. But yeah,
they kind of both have little kind of a breather, so to speak, getting into the postseason. So
right,
yeah, I think they're not going to have much trouble this week, both those teams. So
well. 3 other games in the Middle Illini: Dunlap 26, Canton 22, Morton 39, Limestone 13, Pekin 28, East Peoria 13. From what it sounded like, Dunlap and Canton were in a dogfight.
That was interesting to me. That game just kind of surprised me. I mean, Canton loses their quarterback Jake Smith to an ankle injury, and then I don't know if it's maybe the new guy plays a different style, perhaps, and just Dunlap didn't know what to do with it. But that one surprised me. I did not expect Dunlap to have that much trouble with a team like Canton. And honestly, it kind of feels like Morton and Dunlap. I mean, that big game coming up this week. But again, I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things where Dunlap learns from this and kind of bounces into a big game against Morton, because Morton impressed me. Because Limestone had been playing well as well, and then just kind of just go in and control that game.
Well, and Morton also had two fourth-quarter touchdowns against Limestone to break that game open. Tag Gramp, 182, 3 touchdowns.
My fantasy guy.
Nolan Donald, 221, 2 touchdowns.
My fantasy guy.
So, yeah.
It worked out.
Both those guys, huge games. But that Dunlap-Canton game, I mean, under a minute to go, passing complete on 4th and 7.
Yeah.
To extend that drive for Canton. And Cauley Stein, QB2, now QB1. 3
Great
touchdowns. So, and then Pekin, East Peoria, I'll touch on it in my just one thing about kind of a strange play. Eureka 24, Fieldcrest 14. Stan, what did you picked Fieldcrest? Not to put you on the spot right now. But
you picked against Eureka, our guys. I just don't think we're allowed to pick against Eureka and Tremont. That's just
shook things up a little bit just to see what would happen there.
But I mean, Bachman said they want a home playoff game, and them getting this win.
And they did, like we talked about. What he was hoping would happened in that first half. Their speed on the, they were giving up a lot on the line play, but their speed was able to kind of get the best of the line. Bigger guys from Fieldcrest in that first half, and then field conditions kind of, muddy field conditions and those kind of things were there in the second half. But again, Matt Martin did a great job, and they're ever inching ever closer to that home playoff game.
Right.
Yeah.
Princeville 35, Aledo Mercer County 7. Not taking anything away from Princeville, but Mercer County's 2 top running backs out for school rules violation. Their third string is injured. Did you touch base with Princeville at all? And
I talked to Coach Carruthers, and again he was just harping on how great his defense played, and just being able to shut down a Mercer County team. We didn't talk about the running backs in that situation, but just on how they just continue to get better on the defensive side of the ball, and it's another game where they only give up 1 touchdown. No team has scored 2 touchdowns against them still. And
it sounded like they kind of took that personally, the touchdown.
Yeah.
They were up, and then they came right back, and I think Snedden took a play. They had returned to midfield, I think, a kickoff return to midfield, and then Snedden took the first carry to the house after that.
Wes, Roland Brown had a great quote that you put in your wrap-up. They lost to Danville 38-12, but that quote from Roland Brown.
Yeah, it kind of sounded like maybe just kind of reading between the lines of what the reporter asked him, like what went wrong in the second half, and he said, "Well, we had 19 yards." So that's kind of Roland doesn't really shy away from saying how it is. He won't BS you when his team is struggling and young. They're really young. They're replacing 11 starters, I think, and a lot of sophomores, and so he's not necessarily giving them excuses, but he also won't hide the fact. So they got some work to do.
Yeah. Manual got their first win since October 14th. Ed Cagle said really good defense. Beat Urbana 44-16. Notre Dame 60-48. They might as well be in the Big 12. Georgia.
They're in the Big
12. Big 12 college, yeah. Giorgio Gravetti 192. Two of his 4 touchdowns tied the game. Logan Cover 120. A bounce back win for them. They got that 5th win, which going into week 9, which we'll touch on in a minute, is essential for them.
Oh yeah.
Farmington 52, Abington Avon 14. Sam, what can you say about the Farmers that hasn't already been said?
Yeah, Dash Anderson was he's kind of had a little banged up and that kind of thing. Only played about a half in that, and still got 191 yards there. They were able to get the another back in, Lewis, Dryden Lewis, who got almost 100 yards too, and some touchdowns. So, they certainly keep on rolling, and going for that 9-0. Another team that's been their goal since day one. With this is a group that is different from the other two. They've had back-to-back 9-0s, and this now they're 8-0, but with a new group, and that's only Jared DePriest is really from that team 2 years ago, from the 9-0 team. So this team is kind of wanting to obviously make their mark on Farmington history too, and they're doing a good job of it so far.
That's impressive. You don't see that around here much. I mean, sometimes up in the Chicago area you might see it more, but just. I know the playoff success hasn't been where they want it, but 3 straight unbeaten regular seasons is pretty impressive.
Incredible.
It is, and even the first 2 were a veteran group, a group that'd been around and that kind of thing, and then this one's even maybe a little bit even more impressive because you've got so many new kids that are kind of getting into it this year, and kind of feeding off that tradition that they're building.
Right. Of course, Knoxville might have something to say about
they might
whether or not they finish off that season. But
absolutely. Tremont 41, Flanagan 0. They're 4-4. West, they need a win and they need some help to.
Yeah, they're going to have a lot of help. I mean, we'll talk a little bit more about playoffs here. So, crunch some numbers with the help of our guy Steve Susi, but. Up in Joliet, but Tremont's gonna have to have a win, like I said, and have DMAC pull off a stunner of an upset against GCMS. Eureka beating Tri-Valley, they're gonna have that happen too. So pretty much all the dominoes have to fall their way.
Yeah, they're guaranteed at 35 points, and so they need 2 more to get at that magic number that we think is going to happen. At 37.
Steve Susi says 37 is the number to get in. If you have 37, you're in, which. For those who might not know, 37. It's the combined wins of the 9 teams that you played, or the 9 teams you played. So
either way, Zach Zaire has been really pleased with the progress that this team has made, and they've really shown something this year. So
IVC 41, Bloomington Central Catholic 10. They're another team that's 4-4. North Fulton 45, Peoria Heights 0. Another 4-4. We got some close calls this week. Knoxville 16, Elmwood Brimfield 14. Stan, quite a game last year. What did Todd Hollis have to say about?
He was talking about it was a really about as even of a game as it could be. Statistically, everything was about as even. And he did talk about, coming off of a Farmington, that you have to get up so much for that and the emotions of that, and then you have to get up again to face a team like Knoxville in their place. And, field conditions were a little rough in the midfield area in that field, but both teams scored twice. And unfortunately for Elmwood, they didn't get the 2-point conversion that they needed, and they got up 14-8, but didn't get the 2-point conversion. But one of the cool things about what Todd was talking about in that was that the kids called the play for that 2-point conversion, and they were like, "Okay, this is what we got to do. We know what we got to do." And he was really proud of that. Even, I mean, it stinks that they didn't get the 2-point conversion, but it was like, they took ownership of it, and knowing that that's something that they really felt strongly about, and so he was even. You come away with wins are great, but there's even more to bigger things besides just football and 2 points and life lessons and those kind of things, and they taking ownership of things. And
Todd Hollis has always been a class guy, and that's one of the reasons why they have success. But I mean, he's just somebody who, as I always say, some of the best coaches always are able to put things in perspective, keep life in perspective of sports, and he's always been able to do that, which makes him really easy to cheer for.
Obviously, and they have another tough one again.
I know.
They just go from one to the other, and maybe even a tougher one this weekend coming up with Illini West. But good playoff primers, right?
Yeah, they're going to need them.
Bloomington 51, Peoria High 40. I had this under close calls because Lions were up 20-0. They were up 34-19. Their center Peyton Rutherford got hurt. Wes, how, especially at the high school level, losing your center? I mean, how much does that?
Yeah, that's pretty big. Especially, I'm not honestly don't know if they run a lot from shotgun with Gabe Hernandez or not, or if they're under center. Like I said, Thornton usually sort of lets the quarterback dictate those things. But I know they run a lot. They ran a lot with shotgun and with Karan Taylor and stuff. And I assume Gabe is similar to that. But even honestly, it doesn't really matter. Center is he's going to be the guy who leads your line usually, makes the calls, snaps the balls obviously. Literally, but that's never a good thing to try to replace. And in some ways, you could even argue that replacing a quarterback or a running back is easier in certain ways than replacing a center, in theory anyway.
Right. At the high school level, I assume they're taking all the practice snaps.
Sure.
All of them. Tri-Valley 13, DMAC 6. The Chiefs just can't seem to. I mean, they've lost 3 games by a combined 9 points, including 2 games, 19-18.
Both of those that they had leads in the second half, and I mean, to be right in there with Tri-Valley with just how good Tri-Valley's been year in year out, but it's been tough luck for them in the second half of games. I mean, they even won 14-13 against Tremont beginning, so they've had obviously some really tight games, and the last few just haven't gone their way, and they knew that they needed to get those. When you have something like that, you need to finish those drives and get it done. But losing to Tri-Valley's not. A lot of teams have lost to Tri-Valley over the years. So.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, our next segment, just one thing, a note, stat, quote, fact that stood out from Week 8. Wes, let's start with you.
What stood out with me is Notre Dame's win. They needed that because I think without it, and if they were gone to this week at 4-4, and even winning this week, getting into the playoffs at that point is they would have been in a similar spot that Tremont is in, which even winning wouldn't be enough. I see Notre Dame needing to. I mean, if they win, they're in. So I mean that at least they can control that themselves.
Right.
But if they lose, they're right at that same spot that Tremont is in with the playoff points. I mean, probably end up with 35, almost assuredly. And then they got Peoria High, Richwoods, and Lockport sort of hanging out there, all with games that those teams are probably not favored to win. So and needing two of those teams to win.
Yeah.
So that's a tough road to try to cross. So they just take care of business this week themselves against Danville, and they won't have to worry about it.
Right. Stan, how about you for just one thing?
I'm going to go with 22 as a number.
Okay.
And that's 22 years in a row Stark County had made the playoffs, and this year that streak comes to an end. You know, it's obviously been such a tradition, and last couple of years they've been at 5-4 and that kind of thing. But this year just wasn't able to get to that 5-4 mark that would have got them in this year. And you know, that happened to Illini West a few years ago. They had a 25-year in a row streak, I think, snapped. But you can see that they're back to where they usually are this year. They being 8-0, and I can see Stark County getting, you know, back there. It won't be long before they're back there. They just didn't have enough returning guys this year that and had some injury issues and those kind of things, and so. A long streak.
Plus, it just kind of feels like that's, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, that it seems like their schedule's gotten a little tougher than it has been.
Well, yeah, when you talk about you know, Princeville getting better than they have been, Mid-County getting better than they have been, Ridgewood is a team that had been, you know, struggling, and now they're at 5-3 even. So some of those teams that you kind of thought you could beat have gotten stronger, and so and
they still do the Prairie Land Lincoln Trail crossover
games, and they're getting the tough crossover games. And that's the way it has been. So,
My just one thing is 2nd and 64. That's what East Peoria was facing after 6 consecutive penalties. 2nd and 64 on the 9, and then Austin Hart has 2 catches for 66 yards. And Tristan West Bay hits Ross Smith for a 15-yard TD. To
EP?
Yeah.
Nice.
That total drive had 144 yards lost and gained. And they were up. They were up and 7-0 at halftime, and then Pekin tied that game and then 21 points in the fourth quarter. So that's just one thing. Okay, let's head to the planning preview for Week 9. Let's start with the Middle Illini, the battle for third place.
I mean, technically, there's a chance to get tie for second.
Oh yeah,
but
right.
We're assuming Metamora is probably gonna. I mean, Canton showed some life against Dunlap this week, so you never know. But
true.
No, more likely it's a battle for third place, and more importantly, the battle for playoff positioning. Because if Steve Susi's numbers are correct, I mean, winning that game is worth 7 seed spots, according to Steve,
which is incredible.
He has Morton winning it, which he probably goes third home, playing a little bit better than Dunlap is. So he probably just. It's a coin flip almost. Morton wins that game. He has him as a 6 seed with a home game against Muscuda, and he has Dunlap as a 13 seed on the road against Cahokia.
Yeah.
So if Dunlap even stays in 5A, they're the biggest team in 5A right now, according to Susi. And so I mean, you're playing for. It's a rivalry game. Dunlap, Morton, big, but that's having a home playoff game or not, and. That even sort of ties back into the Notre Dame thing. If Notre Dame doesn't make the playoffs, that's a team that's bigger than Dunlap, and so that could sort of push them up into 6A potentially. And there's so many dominoes that can kind of fall that way, that contingent on what happens this weekend.
Other games across the Middle Illini: Limestone at Pekin, Canton at Metamora, East Peoria at Washington. 2 big games in the Prairie Land: Knoxville at Farmington and Illini West at Elmwood Brimfield. Stan, where do you want to start?
Yeah, well, Knoxville, Farmington. That's you got again. Toby Vallis used to coach at Knoxville, and it was the last time that anybody besides Farmington, Elmwood, won an outright title was Knoxville winning it in 2010 with Toby Vallis. And so, it's kind of worn off a little bit because they played each other before, and that's, it's a few years removed now, but still.
Plus Farmington, now when you think of Toby Vallis, you think of Farmington.
You think of Farmington.
More than you do Knoxville, right?
Right. And they're certainly shooting for that 9-0 and getting as high a seed as possible. It's a seed game where Knoxville is looking, okay, if we can get to 7-2, we're going to push our seed up, and they've got a great running game. They've got a veteran line, a big line, but Farmington also has some big boys too that can kind of counteract that. And Knoxville does have a quarterback that can throw the ball, which normally they're pretty much run, and maybe we'll pass it a couple times a game. But they've got a kid that can throw a little bit, and certainly Farmington does as well. They've got somebody who can put up some pretty good numbers in both offense and throwing the ball in, and they can run the ball out of place with dash. So that should be a fun one. I mean, obviously, playoff type atmosphere there in Week 9. Playoffs are already starting. So Same thing with Illini West and Elmwood Brimfield. You got two teams that are predominantly run oriented, and Farmington, Illini West has just been an absolute machine so far this year. And Lyle Klein talked about, if you're going to compete in the Prairie Lands, you're going to have to do well against the Farmingtons and the Elmwoods, and they've been looking forward to this game from the beginning of the season. And
I believe it was the move to the Prairie Land that. Maybe correct me if I'm wrong. That's what Illini West began to struggle, but then they've turned it around since and sort of assimilated it into the league and shown that they're one of the best in it. So,
and they moved over to the small side this year with
that helps
things in that. But they've shown they can play with the big boys too. So that'll be a fun one to see. I mean, can Elmwood get up again for a third straight tough game, and it's at their place, which always helps to have a home game in Week 9, and so I look forward to a good one there.
Back to the Big 12, Danville coming to Peoria Stadium against Notre Dame, and Peoria High is at Normal Community. Wes, you touched on it about Notre Dame.
They have to have this, period. I mean, they really don't want to be relying on. I know they like to cheer for Peoria High and Richwoods to win, but they don't want to have that happen. And Danville's a team I think is beatable, and Notre Dame their offense just seems pretty on point. They're really playing well, scoring a lot of points. I see them winning this game. I mean, that's a tough. The Big 12 always has these huge drives for these teams, and I wouldn't imagine coming over here 2.5 hour drive is all that fun. But I like the Irish. Peoria High they got a tough road, man. Normal Community is a nice program, and honestly, they have no one to blame but themselves. Peoria High has had some winnable games here the last few weeks that they could have.
And they've been up in games too.
Hit slid into this game not necessarily needing to win it, but put themselves with their back against the wall.
6-2 for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Manuals at Champaign Central, Rock Island at Richwoods, Eureka at Tri-Valley, DMAC at GCMS, Hayworth at Tremont, Princeville at Ridgewood, A-Town at the Heights, Olympia at IVC.
Ghosts.
That's a team that needs a win to be in. Stan, any of those games really stick out to you? I mean, Tremont obviously and IVC need wins, but
pretty simple for IVC. They win, they're in. They're basically they have enough points that they're going to be in. Yeah, they'll have 40. They're in a 10-team league, which pretty much guarantees you to get your 40 points there.
Sure.
So they just got to win, and they team that was 1-4, and so they've been in playoff mode since week 6. So, and they keep doing it, and
Stanford Olympia, whether 1-7, is that right?
They're 1-7. Yes,
so a game they certainly feel like they should be able to win.
A game that they should be able to win, and a game that Yeah. Coach Hines I was talking to him last night. He's at 1-4. He talked to the kids about, okay, who wants to be in the playoffs? And they were like standing at the goal line. He said, step over the goal line if you want to be in the playoffs. And they stepped over the goal line. So, okay, now here's what we got to do. And so they've been kind of.
They started then. Actually, they had to win their game.
Yeah. And this is where it comes down to. So. And Eureka and Dry Valley, that's going to be a fun game. I can see where, Eureka have been on a roll. They've won 6 games in a row here and really got things going the way they want to. On the road is a tough place to play at Tri Valley, and so.
And Downs is in a situation where they don't want to leave it up to playoff points either.
They want to make sure and clinch that thing so they don't have to worry about where their point situation is. And again, like we've talked about, Eureka is looking for that home playoff game, and at 7-2, maybe you get one, maybe you don't.
Right.
But at 8-1, you're probably going to get one.
Yeah, especially with being in halves now. I mean, they're pretty assured that most 9-0s, 8-1s. You got to be a pretty stacked half for an 8-1 to not get a home playoff.
It does
game.
happen. I've seen that happen.
Right. With the quadrants, it happened quite a bit more. But yeah, with the halves, it's pretty apparent.
Wes, is there anything else on the playoff projections from Steve that you want to touch on? I mean, you look at Peoria High being one that needs a win.
They're gonna.
Like you said about Dunlap being the largest school, we got Elmwood potentially at a Monmouth Roseville type.
Well,
game.
and I feel like Washington is assured. I mean, Washington is pretty much locked in as a 6A at this point. I think
it looks like it.
I know that's pretty. And again, I think we talked about it before the podcast a little bit, but these classes are not determined. It isn't like a hoops thing where they're sort of predetermined before the season, and you kind of know who you're going to play. They basically put everybody in order from 9-0 down to 5-4, even some 4-5s if a conference champion's in or whatever, and take the top 256. Period.
Right.
Once that field is set, they put it in enrollment order, and they take the top 32 or 8A, the next 32 or 7A, all the way down until they're done, and that's it. So some of these shuffling between 5 and 6A that like Dunlap might be doing really comes down to how many of these small schools are going to win their 5th game, or how many of these big schools are going to win their 5th game, or so they won't know until all the games are in where Dunlap is on Saturday night.
Right.
So
yeah, we like Steve points out, we enter Week 9 with 303 teams still eligible for playoff spots, and that has to get down to 256.
And there's 80. I think there's 86 left. 170 are in, and so there's 86 spots left out there for.
Because I think there's Elgin St. Edwards in at 4-4 already
as a conference champion.
So there's a few little weird things like that.
So
that
they could be 4 and 5 and still get in.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, we head to our second to last segment, picks. We have 3 games this week. Last week, all of us went 3-0. That gives the standings. I'm at 11-1. Stan is 9-3. Wes is 8-4.
Oh.
Going.
Are we ending it here in the regular season, or are we going to the playoffs?
No, we'll go all the way through the playoffs.
Because I'll just let you guys pick, and I'll just take the opposite ones. Sorry.
We're going all the way through the playoffs.
Pull the goalie.
Dunlap Morton. Wes, you want to start us off?
Oh, boy. I like Morton. I think they're playing better right now. Yeah, just Dunlap, I don't know. It just seems like they've just sort of been scuffling a little bit since hitting the big boys, but it certainly wouldn't surprise me if Dunlap wins this game. They have a lot of talented kids, but Morton's kind of, I think, found his identity with that run game. Gramps really stepped up big. Donald's always a monster.
And Jarrett Kreider even had. He was quiet last week.
Special teams, that aspect of the game he's sort of electric when it comes to those kick returns. So that's
Stan, Dunlap Morton.
I think I'm going Morton too. I for most of the same reasons you just mentioned. I think they're really kind of clicking. They've got that offense really going, and it does help when you've got the running game that you can go to, as well as Donald just being a really standout athlete there. So I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to go Morton.
I'm going to go Dunlap.
Whoa.
I think
Very contrarian.
Miles Burke. He had a good game 2 weeks ago. Maybe struggled a little bit last week against Canton, but I think this is a bounce back for him. And
now I feel like I'm wrong because every time you've done that, you've been right. When we've gone one way and felt like good about it, then you say the other name and you always win.
So, yeah, I'll take Dunlap. Knoxville, Farmington. Stan, let's start with you. Give us a pick and then tell us why.
All right, I'm going to go Farmers. I'm going to go with Farmington. I just think that they have the weapons to do that offensively. I know that Knoxville's got again a big line. They've got Case Hennepin, who's just a ton running the ball and on the defensive side of the ball too. But I think the Farmers just got a lot of weapons there that they can go to, and they've got some guys on the defensive side. Sometimes their defense doesn't get the credit that it deserves when you're scoring all those points. But
right.
I think they've got the defense that can stop them too on the run game.
Wes, Knoxville, Farmington, give us a
Farmers,
pick. Tell us why. All right.
Farmers balance. I think I've talked about it before.
Yeah.
I think when I picked them over Elmwood, they have different ways to win games, I think. And I think Knoxville is going to make them have to pass a little bit to win this game. They're not going to be able to get their backup running backs 100 yards like they did last week.
Exactly.
But Dash Anderson, I assume he can catch it a little bit too. They're going to get Springer involved. Yeah, I see a 300-plus game out of Bratt potentially.
Yeah.
A big game, but I think they win it.
I'm going Farmington as well. Our bonus game this week, we got Illini West at Elmwood Brimfield. I mean, Elmwood was, sitting pretty heading into week 7 at 6-0, and they could potentially, head into the playoffs 6-3. Stan, who are you taking?
It's hard to pick against Elmwood,
I know.
It's like, how do you pick against Elmwood?
Todd,
the program,
sorry, Todd.
You're
a great guy, but you're going to lose week 9.
But I just think Illini West is just it just seems like they're playing at such a level now that they want to finish that out, and certainly it's a game that's at Elmwood, which is in favor of the Trojans on that. But I don't think this is going to be a game where Illini West is going to put up 50 points. I think Elmwood's going to be able to hold them down a little bit. But yeah, I'm going to have to go Illini West on this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think Illini West. Man, it's tough because Susie has it lined up that I think he has Illini West winning this game as well, and he has Elmwood going from 6-0 to 6-3 and a road playoff game in the first round of the playoffs. Like, that's just a tough ending of the season. But that being said, could end up being a blessing. I don't mean you learn some things from these losses, and if anybody's going to teach us kids lessons from film, is Todd Hollis.
Right.
So,
yeah, I'm going with Illini West too. I think they're giving up something like 10.2 points a game in their eight contests, and I just don't see
pretty stout.
Elmwood topping that. All right, our final segment is our PJ Star Fantasy Football. Week 8 winner was Stan with 74.5 points. His quarterback, Nolan Donald, gave him 37.5. He had 17 passing yards, 221 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Ethan Kemp from IVC, 139 rushing yards with 3 touchdowns, a 2-point conversion, and 15 reception yards for 34.5. Jarrett Kreider had 25 total yards for 2.5 points. Wes was next. He had 59.65. Tag Gramp, huge day.
Big.
36.2 points, 182 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns. The IVC tandem, the Alexes.
I picked the wrong IVC guy.
Merlot and Fulton. Alex Fulton had 14.5 points. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. And QB Alex Merlot had 59 passing yards, 60 rushing yards. And I was third with 37.8. Miles Burke gave me 8 points.
Oh, you're doubling down on Burke. That's what happened, isn't it?
Yeah, I am. Dash Anderson, of course. He gave me 31.1 points, 91 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. Jack Moore from Metamora, he was actually in the negative. He had 1 catch for negative 3 reception yards. All right, Stan, who's your quarterback this week?
I'm going Matt Martin this week. I know he's got a tough
I thought about that too.
tough defense there in Tri-Valley, but Eureka's got to make something happen, and he's the guy that makes something happen. So
Right.
I'm going with Matt.
Wes, how about you?
I know I risk only being a half of play, but I'm gonna use my Caleb Fisher here.
Okay.
Against East Peoria, but certainly could see that he can do both. I think that's what makes him a weapon here. I mean, he might end up not passing for much, but I think he can run for a bit too.
Mm-hmm.
He played a half in week 6 against Pekin, and he gave me 43.5 points.
Okay, there you go. I'll take that.
So rest assured, the half works well. I'm going with Hayden Brott from Farmington. I saved him until week 9. I think against Knoxville, he'll be able to put up some numbers. Running back, Wes, let's go back to you.
Caden Buster, Tremont.
I thought about Caden.
I'm going to use that one. I have a feeling that Zare, like I said, that even though they kind of know playoffs are kind of they're not going to go out lying down though.
No, definitely not. Right. Stan, how about you? You're running back?
I'm going to go maybe a half as well, but Austin Yeager for Metamora.
Yep.
I think they're going to be running the ball maybe a little bit more than the pass there, so I'm going to go with Austin.
I'm going Ethan Kemp from IVC. I think he builds off last week's game. They know they need to win this one. He'll run wild. Wes, who's your wide receiver?
Well, I think Morton's going to have to be a little more diversified to try to beat Dunlap this week. So I want to take Jarrett Kreider, and even if he might flash in a special teams game and give me a score or two there maybe. But I think they're going to have to go through the air a little bit to beat Dunlap. So.
All right, Stan, how about you? Who finishes out your squad?
I'm going Cole Ludoff, receiving
nice.
for Washington. Had a nice game this past weekend, and maybe gets that in for week 9 too. And so.
Okay, and I'm gonna go the stack. Is that what they call it?
That's right.
I'm going Alex Fulton from IVC. Another. I mean, same situation as Ethan. They know they need to get in. They need to get in the end zone, and hopefully they do it early and often.
Speaking of that, we'll dovetail into that's where Stan's going to be this week.
Okay.
Right.
Over in Chile, Taylor Field.
All right. Did we get in for the playoffs, or do we?
That's right.
So yeah.
Exactly. Who else is out covering games?
We got David Minion, Cleve, our guy, capturing Spirit over at Malone last week. He'll be at Dunlap Morton for that big tilt.
Okay.
We're going to try to get somebody out to Notre Dame potentially. I might be out there. I don't know. It depends on. I'm technically on vacation this week, but you know how that is for this business. So
yeah,
I might sneak over to the stadium on Friday to watch the Iris.
Okay. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at PJ Star Sports. Plug in the hashtag PGS Preps into the search bar. You'll be able to find plenty of scores. We'll have a recap of Week 9 next week, same time, or right around the same time, and dive into the playoffs.
Dive in. Lots of playoff stuff.
Week 10, yep.
Yeah.
So for Wes Huett, sports editor, small school football beat writer, Stan Morris. I'm your host, Adam Duvall, our producer, Matt Dayhoff. Thanks for joining us. Bye for now.
Bye.